We all have to wear so many hats when running a small business. It's a little wonder we feel overwhelmed for a good portion of the time. One of the most important jobs we have to coordinate is that of office manager. Think about the places you've worked in the past. This is a whole separate job for a whole separate full-time employee who plays the role of office manager. Well, guess who does it in our art business? That's right, it's me. Hi, I'm John, and this is Bogdan. Join us on our journey as we figure out how to earn a living as artists, introduce you to those we meet, and share what we learn along the way. If you like today's content, please consider giving us a thumbs up, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell. You can really help me out if you do. You know, I looked up a job description of what an office manager is, and I laughed out loud when I realized just how much of the job I was already doing. Here's a little checklist for you to consider in your own business. Office managers have to coordinate all the administration, procedures, safety concerns for around the office. They manage acquisitions, inventory, personnel, maintenance, shipping, supplies, bills, scheduling, IT invoices, contracts, secretarial duties, filing, records management, equipment, reporting, networking, budgeting, event planning, communications, correspondence, and morale. How does all that sound? I read over a sample job description online, and I was amazed that anyone could require that, all of that, from just one individual. Yet, I do all of these things and more. I expect that you do too. So how are we supposed to do all of this, as well as all the marketing, planning, and creating art? The only possible answer is to break things into smaller, more manageable bites. That way, you can still prioritize the most important activities while filling in some of the busy work as time permits. There's two of us in our business, and we don't have any employees. I tend to batch all of the bill paying and receipt management to once a week. Most of my bills are paid automatically, so it's mostly just recording and filing expenses anyway. I take that opportunity to do my mileage reporting, placing supply orders, and budgeting. We sit down for a meeting once a week, sometimes more, and I actually take minutes for the files. That keeps us legal if we're ever questioned. Once a month, I balance the bank and credit card statements and take advantage of that time to review any budget concerns and planning for the following month. I create 2 newsletters, one for me and one for Bogdan, and I usually spend some time then to schedule any automatic social media drops for the month. I save most of the more strategic planning and goal tracking and market research for some sort of quarterly attention. Of course, that all changes when there are fires to be put out, but I can usually keep myself organized if I break things down into categories that make sense. Some things I must do today. Others can wait a week, a month, a quarter. I should stress here that I'm only talking about administrative types of tasks. I keep up with my daily social media content, networking, and art creation as my first priority, and move the rest to the back burner. Around the first of the month and around tax season, those duties take on a bit more importance. So then what are some of these strategies we must incorporate in our day-to-day art businesses to make us better office managers? The first thing that comes to mind is organization. If you're like me, the fact that you don't do office management tasks all day, every day, it can get a little bit disorganized. For example, I was just going through a stack of receipts and I found a tiny check that I've never deposited for 2 months. The best way to deal with those sorts of issues is to become very organized. When you find something that has slipped through the through the cracks? Take a moment to devise a system that will keep that from happening again. Organize your desk space and your files. Set up double-checking systems in your spreadsheets. Create checklists for repeatable processes. The check was a random refund overpayment on insurance. I wasn't expecting it, and it was only for $7, and it just fell through the cracks. I now have a separate inbox for deposits. Hopefully that's going to help. That reminds me, make sure you have a large inbox and use it. Everything goes into that box before you act on it. That way, you're less likely to discover an unpaid bill under your desk or on the nightstand at home. Create your to-do lists each day. If there is so much on your list that it scares you, take a Post-it note and write down the top 5 things that you must absolutely do today. And check the longer lists when those 5 tasks are completed. The stress and the pressure of a huge list not only makes you more likely to make mistakes, it can ruin your creativity and joy. Remember, you actually like your job. I think we've all seen that exercise where somebody tries to put big rocks and pebbles into a jar. And the point is that if you start with the pebbles, the large stones won't fit. But if you place the large stones in the jar first, the small ones just fill in around the gaps and everything fits nicely. Another thing that has helped me a lot is having most of my files electronically stored on Google Drive. That way I have access to my information wherever I am. Google Drive is great, but you do have to be detailed enough to manage all those folders to keep from getting overwhelmed in that space too. Which brings me back to knowing and being honest with yourself. Are you able to recognize when you're getting overwhelmed? This needn't be restricted to office work. It could expand to your creative work as well. We all tend to retreat to certain patterns and activities that comfort us when we're feeling stressed. Do you know what those signals are in your own life? Figure them out. I know that when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I spend a whole lot of time drawing pictures. Of course, as an artist, that's generally not a problem. But it can be when I have a deadline looming near. Be kind to yourself and learn to recognize when your body and your mind are screaming at you to relax a bit. Remember that there was no training program when we took on this office manager job. We're not supposed to know everything. And we have to learn the job as we're doing it. Be sure to use the calendar on your phone to schedule important due dates and reminders for those things you often forget. If you know that your sales taxes are going to be due every quarter on the 20th, book an ongoing reminder on your phone for a few days prior, and then you'll get a reminder in time to meet your deadline. If you've already completed the tasks when the reminder comes, just pat yourself on the back and move forward. My experience of office management is that it is largely reactive. I spend my day reacting to emails and phone calls and coworkers and the like. At the end of the day, I can have accomplished a huge number of tasks, but still not progressed very far. It goes back to those small pebbles I mentioned. Schedule time to work on the strategic parts of your job as well. Prioritize your workflow to allow yourself to look forward, not only at the crisis at hand. Let's imagine that you have a new project that you want to launch. There's still plenty of time ahead of you, but spending a few minutes each day on planning can help prevent those last-minute stresses. We decided that we wanted to branch out into providing social media content on a pretty aggressive schedule. That meant we had to commit to the time and the effort that would entail. It also meant that we had to ensure that we had access to the platforms to make that content available. Well, come to find out, My desktop computer was so old that it was incompatible with some of the newer applications. That meant we had to go and fork out a huge amount of money on a new computer for me before we could even attempt this new project. So we had to dredge up the money for an unexpected upgrade in technology. It worked out because we were starting our planning very early. Be sure to schedule time to think about the big rocks in your business, and that you apply to project management the tools needed to orchestrate which tasks must happen and in which order to achieve the success of the project. Break things into small tasks and be consistent. I used to live out in the woods, and I would walk the fence line of my property every day to make sure I knew what was going on. Do the same thing in your business. Walk around the office, around the building. Are there any maintenance issues appearing? Do you have any employees? Check with them daily to see how they're doing and if they have all the tools they need, or if there's any concerns that you can help with. Check the storage room, the supply closet, the coffee maker. Add any tasks to your list early in the day so that you can prioritize what needs doing and what can wait. Then assess the impact of those things and what impact they will have on the budget, the calendar, supplies, and outsourcing required. Finally, be realistic and honest about what you can and can't do with your time, your money, technology, and the tools at hand. But most importantly, don't ever lose the joy of it all. Yeah, there's a lot of work, and yes, it's probably you who are going to have to do all of it. But never forget that you're following your bliss here. And if you're like me, you'd walk through fire to keep that creative business thriving. And just so you know, you're not in this alone. There are loads of us out there who are willing to help and be delighted to help. So have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.